we have faith in our hearts that we know things will get better. We have faith for those of us that believe. We have faith in our hearts to know that the bad will not last. From everyone here at the Sara Carter Show, I hope that you are enjoying your time with your family, with your friends, with your dogs, with your cats, with your birds, whatever it is. I hope that wherever you are on this beautiful holiday season, this Christmas holiday, that you are spending time just getting back to what you love to do and taking a break from the craziness of this world. I know things are so upside down for so many of us right now. It's hard to believe that, we're almost at the new year, right? So much has changed in our country. We have faced so much together as a nation. And as I look back on the holiday, I think about all of these amazing, beautiful moments that I spent with my family. Even in some of the craziest parts of the world. I mean, I celebrated Christmas as a child in Saudi Arabia, in Alabama versus California. Now I'm in Texas. I was in Alexandria, Virginia. My mother celebrated in Cuba. I celebrated one time in Mexico. One time I actually did a USO tour. And we did the Christmas holiday tour that was with Admiral Mullen under the Obama administration, believe it or not, when I was working at the Pentagon. And we traveled overseas with the USO in the winter. And it was just absolutely amazing. We were in Afghanistan, Kazakhstan, Italy. It was an incredible flight on Air Force Two, believe it or not. I've had some pretty remarkable memories and experiences in my life that I wouldn't trade for anything. It's been a wild ride, and I want to share those traditions and those memories with you on the Sara Carter Show today. And I want to talk to you about what it is that makes life exciting, right? What it is and what it is that makes life so beautiful and so worth living, being with our friends, being with our family, sharing new experiences together, eating Uzbek palau with a warlord, right? Or celebrating Christmas in Iraq or Afghanistan. And those are the stories that I want to share with you. And I hope that you will share your stories with me. And I'm going to tell you how to do that at the end of this podcast, because I think this is going to be a lot of fun and it's going to be really important, especially now since X has given us this incredible ability to talk to one another and to do video logs together. So I'll tell you all about that at the end of the show. First, My Pillow. My Pillow is excited to bring you their biggest bedding sale ever, just in time for Christmas giving. Yes, the biggest bedding sale of the year, extending their money back guarantee for Christmas until guess when? March 1st, 2024. You won't get that anywhere else, guys. You will not get this deal. Mike Lindell, it's like talking to your uncle, right? He comes out on TV, he gets on the radio, he says exactly what he wants to say, speaks from his heart, talks about how he feels, puts everything out on the line, doesn't care, says, guess what? I'm going to give you a money back guarantee. And that's exactly what he's going to do. So if you need to buy sheets, if you need to buy mattress toppers, if you need to buy pillowcases, if you need to buy pillows, dog beds for your dogs, pillows for yourself, you want to go to mypillow.com. Yes, mypillow.com. Visit mypillow.com/Carter, CARTER, and enter code Carter at checkout for big, big discounts, including the Giza Dream bed sheets for as low as $29.98. Go to mypillow.com/Carter, code Carter, mypillow.com/Carter, code Carter, or call 1-800-685-7221. That's 1-800-685-7221. So let's get started at the beginning. So before I was even born, I feel like I'm telling you a Christmas tale, right? A Christmas before I was born. My mother was a young girl in Cuba. She was born in Cuba, in Havana, Cuba. She grew up in a town called San Jose. My grandmother and my grandfather were very traditional. My grandmother was actually Catholic raised like all of the kids in the family. My grandfather, on the other hand, even though he would go to Catholic church with my family sometimes, he was actually a Mason. He was a Mason. I didn't, know this till much later when my grandmother would talk to me about it. But he was a Mason. He believed that God was a great mathematician that created this amazing world. And my grandfather was a builder. He was actually a builder in Cuba. And my grandmother liked to brag about the fact that he built the aqueducts, like he was in charge of the aqueducts in Cuba. So my grandfather was big on tradition. He ended up in Cuba, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of backstory, and then we're going to go right into Christmas tradition for my family in Cuba before and after communism. But my grandfather actually was put on a boat in Spain during the war. Would that be my great grandmother? My grandfather's mother thought, and was rightly so, believed that my grandfather he was 13 years old, that he would be killed or he would be taken. Their family had to go into hiding. She put him on a mercenary ship. And I'm going to tell you how old he was, because I never met him. He was born in 1884. My grandfather, 1884. I know, crazy, huh? Never met the man. He died before I was born. But he was put on a mercenary ship with an uncle, and his uncle was apparently murdered on that ship by the time they reached Cuba. And he was 13 years old. And basically the captain's like, okay, we're here. We're in Cuba. Get the heck off of the ship. Thank you for riding. Goodbye. So long. See ya. Hasta la vista. And he had no family. He had nobody to turn to. And he was walking through Havana alone, 13-year-old kid with a bag in his hand, nothing left, money stolen. And he eventually ran into a man who owned a restaurant, I believe, in a little shop in Havana, or just outside of Havana, actually, who was looking for help. And he took such pity on my grandfather that he gave him a room above his shop and let him live there. Eventually, my grandfather, Cabino, became a part of his family in a way. And this shop owner who was also a builder, I don't know if he was a mason, but he liked to build things. According to my grandmother, he loved the work that my grandfather would do, and paid for his college. So my grandfather ended up going to college, becoming an engineer, and then later working to build the aqueducts in Cuba. So fast forward, traditional Cuban celebrations of Christmas. Yes, like all good Catholics, it was the same, probably midnight masses and things of that nature. I'm not sure if they did that in Cuba, but my mom was a very devout Catholic, always going to church. But in Cuba, they had the three wise men. So the three wise men would show up in January, from what I remember. And I'm sorry, I'm not a traditionalist to know all the details of this. I can look it up, but I'm just going to tell you the stories that my mom would say. Like, they would all put their shoes out and they would make fun of, like each other, who had the stinkiest shoe, wasn't going to get like the best presents. And of course, all of that joking around that kids would do. And my grandmother had 13 children. Now, 2 of her children died in one of SIDS, and one later of meningitis. So 11 of them survived. 11 of them survived. So they got 11 shoes sitting out front, right? 11 different kinds of shoes. They're waiting for the wise men to show up in January. And that is how traditionally they would celebrate. And it was a wonderful, fun, beautiful celebration. And all of you out there, if you don't know any Cubans, you should, because they cook all the time and they're trying to feed you all the time. So you will never go hungry. And they're just fun people. We're just a fun culture. Very, very outgoing, very romantic, very loud, very determined, but and love to dance. And that was a big part of it too. So it wasn't a subdued Christmas celebrations. They would be really, and just the way I remember it as a kid when we were in California, just really outgoing, right? We'd invite the nuns. Like my aunt sometimes would have the nuns come over to her house and Christmas carol. And, the priests would come over and, we would dance salsa. We would celebrate, of course, Jesus. We would sit around the table. Now I'm much more subdued than my family when I was younger. And it's probably because I married just a true blue American who is about tradition. And of course, we say our prayers around the table and we all talk about and we try to talk about what we're thankful for and for our families and for Christ and what Christ means in our life and what his birth means to all of us and how it changed the world and changed the way we perceive the world and each other and really changed our culture and taught us about forgiveness and about the love of God and what that means to us and how we should treat one another. Well, things were very, very different under Fidel Castro. Fidel Castro from 1959 to 2006, when he passed away or when he left, he was pretty much the world's longest running Marxist leader. That's it. He would never die. My mom used to say, you know what? She would say, Sara, because that's what she would call me, Sara, not Sarah. Sara, Fidel Castro will outlive me. And she was right. She said, that old man is so stubborn. He will never die. Well, he did die, but he did outlive her. And he outlived so many people that were forced to leave their home, to leave their country, to leave everything behind and make a new life in, of course, the most amazing nation on earth, the United States of America. But imagine having to leave all that and come here. And then you try to bring your traditions with you. You try to teach your children about your traditions. And sometimes you end up with a kid like me who loved listening to the funny parts of the story, like if the shoes smelled and who had the stinkiest shoes. So was it, this aunt or that uncle, and telling jokes and, having all that fun and not listening to the exact details, right? To the exact details. But I found this amazing story about Cuba. And my mom would talk about when Fidel Castro took power. It was as if he sucked God out of the island. It was as if that was the attempt. It was to suck the air out of the island, to suck the hope out of the people, to suck the spirit out of the people, this beautiful spirit, this island spirit, this very mixed island, right? People, there was slavery in Cuba as well, but it ended far earlier than what happened in America. And Cuba was much more of a mixed island. And that was very visible. And people brought their own traditions with them too. Even the African slaves brought traditions with them to Cuba that did get mixed into the Catholic religion, so to speak, and a very different island mixture, right? Something you wouldn't see here in the United States, at least not what we see as traditional celebrations. But Fidel Castro sucked the life out of the Cuban people. It's what happens when Marxists come in to power. It's that feeling that you're feeling now, this Christmas. I'm sure some of you are feeling it when you're thinking about the future of our nation. What does it mean? Why do we have people coming to this country that are trying to impose very different cultures that don't mesh with our own into our society? Ones that don't believe in freedom, that don't believe in the celebration, that don't believe in Judeo-Christian values, that don't take, that instead of giving, they do take. That instead of giving, they do take. They take away. They suck the life and the spirit out. And that is what happened in Cuba. Well, I'm going to tell you an experience I had in Saudi Arabia that was exactly like that. See, in Saudi Arabia, during the 8 years that I lived there, we could not go to church. No, it's much different, folks. In the United States of America, we have mosques. We have synagogues, we have Catholic churches, Baptist churches, Protestant churches. We all celebrate in our own way, right? Muslims, for the most part, they celebrate Ramadan during this time of the year, and they end that tradition of fasting with a huge celebration called Eid. Eid Mubarak, as they would say in Saudi Arabia. And I celebrate, and I have celebrated with my Muslim friends, even when I was in Iraq in the war zone, Eid Mubarak. A great feast where you're eating, where you finished the, you're fasting and you're ready to get out there and celebrate life again. And fasting actually is an incredible thing to do in all religions. You hear about it in the Bible, you hear about it in the Quran. Judaism also celebrates this tradition of fasting, right? But in Saudi Arabia, unlike the United States, where Muslims are free to go to the mosque and celebrate and gather together and pray the way that they see fit, they do not let you do that over there. You cannot go to church in Saudi Arabia. There are no churches, Catholic or Christian or otherwise, and certainly no synagogues. And when I was there, it was against the law. I don't know what the laws are like right now, so I don't want to delve too deeply, but I'm sure they don't allow it. But we never went to church on Christmas. So we celebrated in our compound, and it was like a little tree, like not even real, like the fake trees. Like I still have those in the corner, and you get presents and you read through the Bible, and that's it. Talk to your friends. Maybe your friends come over. Maybe in the compound, you'll get to do a little bit of a celebration like Christmas caroling and such. But one year there was a it was not Catholic, it was a chaplain. There was a chaplain that was working for Lockheed Martin, the same company my father worked for. And he wanted to do a service. And he got someone at NCS, which was our school at the time, to allow him to do a service in the school gym. Now, I'm very young, so I may be off on a few details in this story, but I do remember what happened. Now, my mother didn't want to go, so she let me go with my best friend, Norma Salinas, on the bus. And it was outside of our compound and on the school campus where all the American kids would go to school. There was PCS and NCS, and this was the NCS school campus. And we get to the campus, and lo and behold, there are a lot of buses showing up, right? And one of the companies was Ericsson, which was a Swedish company. And it's like ingrained in my mind right now. Like I have this memory just ingrained in my mind. So Norma, my friend Norma and I, we get off the bus. We're so excited. We're going to go to a Christmas celebration. It feels like America. We're so excited. We get into the gym. We're all sitting down in the gym. All the kids, all the parents, the buses are outside. And I remember everything got quiet. The pastor came up, whatever he said, he got everybody quiet. And the Swedish girls, I was so jealous because I thought, wow, they look amazing. I want to be in that group. They were wearing these beautiful wreaths in their hair with candles. And I think they were real. They were like small, but they were lit up. They were lit up, and they had these beautiful white gowns, and they were all blondes. And they were coming down, from what I remember, down the aisle singing Ave Maria. And I was young. I can't even remember how young right now, maybe 10 or 11. And I was floored. I was in awe. I could feel something I hadn't felt in a long time, maybe the presence of a community, the presence of God, that feeling. And I wish my mom would have been there. I think she was sick, but I still went, and I just felt this beautiful, beautiful sense of peace and love and just calm. And out of nowhere, all of a sudden, like boom, just like out of nowhere, the entire gym was flooded with military men with weapons pointed at us, rushing through the gym, screaming in Arabic And it's a PTSD moment when you're a kid. You got guns in your face. They're pushing you out of chairs. They're moving you. They're grabbing the pastor. They're handcuffing him. They're taking him. And you're a kid. And all of a sudden you realize, at least I did, and it hit me as I got older. Wow. We really could lose everything, our safety, our freedom, our life, just because we believe in Christ, because we believe in God, the way we believe in him. Like, it's horrifying. It was horrifying. Imagine that happens even to this day. Christians cannot celebrate in parts of the world. They lose everything if they do. Imagine the difference of that celebration. Cuba, they're dancing the salsa. Baby Jesus has got some maracas. I don't even know. They're having a great time. They're believing in Christ their own way, right? All of a sudden, Fidel Castro comes in and he has a war on religion. A war on religion. By the way, Fidel Castro described Catholics as social scum. Social scum. That is what he said. And that is what we are seeing in our country, by the way, when we see these professors in these universities breaking down, and these nonprofit groups and these other groups taking religion and just dicing it and slicing it and trying to take it away from you and making it out to be something that it's not. Because they don't want, one, that community, that moral community that strengthens one another, right? Imagine what it is. I hear this all the time when people bring me excuses. Well, I'm not religious. I don't want to get involved. I don't want to have a religious, I think it's, people say things like that. Oh, I've heard it. I've heard it in my own family. I don't want to, just belong to one group. Well, when you have a family, a church, a community, you have people that you can celebrate with, that you can rely on. Before I came on this podcast, my neighbor was walking by. I was on the phone with my producer and, he's like, hey, and I live in Texas now. So people actually talk to each other. He's like, hey, Sarah, how's it going? I'm like, I'm doing great. Aaron, how are you? Oh, I'm great. We're doing this, we're doing that. We go to church. We see each other in the community. We talk to one another. And guess what? When I need to have a carpool or a ride for my daughter, Aaron's there for me. We're there for each other. We pray together, all of us, right? We find hope in our communities, in our families. Nah, that's not what the Marxists want. They don't want you to have that. They want you to only have faith in the government. Someone like Fidel Castro. He was such a loser, but he ran Cuba. He was the longest serving Marxist dictator. People bowed to him, not to Christ. In the end, children were turning their family members in for going to church to their teachers. Think about what happened during COVID. Think about the power that our government had over us and our ability to go to church and gather as a community. Right? HelloFresh. I tell you about HelloFresh. It is so fantastic. And in fact, I am able to do what I need to do for my family because HelloFresh makes it so easy for me. My daughter loves to cook with me. I get the recipes delivered right to my front door. They're farm fresh. They're pre-portioned ingredients. They have seasonal recipes delivered right there, like I said, to your home. You can skip those trips to the grocery store and all of that wasted time. And you can count on HelloFresh to make home cooking fun and easy and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. And I'm not just saying this. I'm going to be posting some of my favorite recipes at HelloFresh on Instagram so you can watch Annalise and I do some great cooking. I want you to go to HelloFresh.com/Sara Carter free. That's SaraCarterFree and use Sara Carter free for free breakfast for life. Think about that. One breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/Sara Carter free with code Sara Carter free. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. You know, we spend so much time alone. And I hope this Christmas, you kind of take those games out of the kids' hands for just a little bit. Let them have fun. I'm not telling you to start, World War III with your kids on Christmas, because some of them, they just love these games. But just take it away for a little bit and find community with your family. Find time to listen to one another. I don't know, go sledding if you're near the snow. If you're out in the desert, find something to do. Go camping out at night. Just take some time away from the solitude that we find ourselves in all the time, inside our phones, inside gaming systems, inside television, right? Texas, we barbecue. When I have a barbecue, I want people to have fun. I want them to come to my house. I want them to put their phones away unless they're taking pictures of the great barbecue that we're having and maybe posting it here and there. And just celebrating. More importantly, I hope that we reflect on the meaning of Christ and what Christ has done for this amazing planet, for humanity. What the meaning of God is, the forgiveness and the birth of Christ and those traditions and what that means to each and every single one of us. That's what makes Christmas so special, right? No matter where we're at in the world, is that we know that no matter how bad it gets, whether it's those men in Saudi Arabia pointing guns at us just for believing in Christ and for celebrating it, we have faith in our hearts that we know things will get better. We have faith for those of us that believe. We have faith in our hearts to know that the bad will not last. It's like when I talked to Rabbi Menken. I don't know if y'all listened to that podcast the other day. And I said to Rabbi Menken, gosh, Rabbi, how do we get through this? How do we get through this? And he said something that I thought was very important. He said, Sara, every single time a nation comes after the Jews, every single time we survive, we find our way through it, and that nation fails to thrive. They are no longer the great nation that they once were. I want you to think about that. And as you celebrate Christmas right now in whatever state you're at, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Nevada, California, New York, or the great old state of Texas, or Alexandria, Virginia, where I used to celebrate. Hi to everyone over there. I want you to think about all of those stories that you hear, all of those traditions. I want you to take a look at all of the effort people put into decorating their houses, into making those special cookies and dinners. And I want you to thank God for making all of it possible. And I don't want you to stop saying your prayers. We need to keep doing that too. We have a nation to save, folks. Enjoy your holiday. Enjoy your family. Enjoy everything that God has blessed you with. Please, you deserve it. And remember, thank you for being a part of the Sara Carter Show. Thank you for being a part of my family. I promise you, I will say prayers for you this Christmas as well. Thank you again. Please make sure you subscribe to the Sarah Carter Show here on your favorite podcast app. It really helps us. Follow me on Truth at Sarah Carter Official, on X at Sarah Carter DC, and on Instagram at SCarterDC. Again, Merry Christmas. May Christ bless you and your family this new year. God bless you. God bless our great nation. And God bless the great state of Texas.